Hello. Well, today I'd like to talk a little bit about the paranormal. Have you ever had a paranormal experience that happened to you that you never really wanted to talk about? Well, I had one happen to me, and today I'm actually going to, for the first time, talk about it. I never really was willing to talk about it in the past. Hi, my name is Larry. This is my site. My channel is called Being Senior, where we share stories about what's happened to us in the past that may have some relevance to some of our viewers now. Anyway, we're just attempting really just to be a fun place to go. So anyway, let's go ahead and start with today's story. This happened to me back when I was working for the Sheriff's Department in Las Vegas. I just transferred from Orange County in California out to out to Vegas. And anyway, I just got there, and I was supposed to start on a specific date. Somehow that got postponed for a couple of weeks. So I was looking for something I needed to do at the time. Just anything. I didn't want to just stay at home. So I went down to a security company and got hired on immediately. And I was assigned to a job that was in the Vegas area, a little bit in Henderson. And my job was closing the parks at night. It was a graveyard shift, 4 12-hour shifts and 3 days off. It was a great job. It was easy. It was so easy. It was unbelievable. All I had to do was go lock up the bathrooms at a park and sometimes pull a chain across the gate and block access after 10 o'clock. So anyway, it was during my training period, and only took about 1 or 2 nights for me to find out I had 25 different stops I had to make. And the guy who was training me, his father actually owned the security company that I was working for at the time. And I asked him, I said, why in the world would you be leaving this wonderful, easy job that is as stress-free as any job I've ever had? Why would you be leaving this job? And he told me, he said, it's because, he said, there's a couple of these parks that are haunted and it's creeping me out, and I'm just going to move to another position with my dad's company. I said, oh, what in the world are you talking about? And he said, well, he said, the worst one is a park called Fox Ridge Park. I said, okay, Fox Ridge. I said, where is it? He said, it's in Henderson, right next to Las Vegas. And he said, too many weird things have been happening to me in that park. I said, like what? And he said, well, he said, on one of the swing sets, when you walk up to lock the bathrooms, there's just a couple of swing sets that are pretty close by the bathrooms. And he said, the story goes that some 6-year-old boy was murdered here, and his ghost will be in a swing, swinging back and forth at night. And if you see him there, and you go over to approach him to find out if there's anybody with him or if he's got a caretaker or whatever, his face turns into a demon-looking thing, and then he disappears. All right, so the first thing I was thinking to myself, this is just another hazing. I'm the new guy on the block. They're probably going to put a doll out there in the chair and hook some fishing line on it and make it swing and see if they can scare me. That was exactly what I thought. It turned out that never happened. What did happen, however, is I'd been on the job a little over a week, and I went to Fox Ridge Park, and I went out there, and anyway, I was locking up the bathroom, starting to walk back towards my car, and I look over at the swing set, and there's this little kid-looking thing. I don't know. He just looked like a 6-year-old boy, and he was swinging in that swing, going back and forth. And I'm thinking to myself, no, this can't be real. So I started looking around to see if there's a parent or somebody out there with this little boy. I can't find anybody. I can't find anybody in the parking lot, can't find anybody in the park. And I see that little kid still swinging back and forth. So I'm asking myself, do I really want to go over there and have this thing's face turn into a demon in front of me? Quite honestly, the answer was no. And I stood there for probably 10 minutes just watching this little kid go back and forth in that swing. And at the time, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'd been warned not to go out there until 3 o'clock. Or at 3 o'clock, they said it was the worst time to go. But this was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I saw this. And I thought, you know what? I really don't need the craziness and the lack of sleep this is going to cause me if I go over and see what's going on. Clearly, it was a bizarre situation. It was exactly as the guy who was training me had told me. It was exactly like that. So I just went back to the car and I went on to the next park. So anyway, for the next few nights, I didn't see anybody in the swing again. But one night, I walked up to the bathroom. I was getting ready to lock the men's bathroom. I already locked the women's bathroom. I was getting ready to lock the men's bathroom. And I heard this old man right behind me. And he asked me, he said, wow, he said, I haven't seen you for a while. And I told him, I turned around, I saw him, and I said, sir, I said, I've only been here like a week, so I really can't. I said, I don't think there's any chance you ever saw me before. I said, you probably just have me confused with somebody else. And he goes, oh, okay, well, maybe you're right. And I looked down, and behind him there's two little dogs. One was a Yorkshire Terrier, and one was a poodle. So anyway, I turned back around, and I finished getting the steel door closed, putting the lock on it, checking it to make sure it was secure. Then I turned around and thought, let me check on this old man and make sure he got out of here okay, because he looked like he was at least 85 years old. So anyway, I turned around, I went to looking for him. He couldn't have gone too far. It was only like less than a minute. I couldn't find him anywhere. I looked all around that park. I looked around every bush, couldn't find a car. Everything was locked up tight, and I never did find that man again. I thought, a little strange, but maybe I just missed him or whatever. So anyway, it wasn't too long after that job came to an end. I went to work. I was working in a courthouse. I was a bailiff at the time. And anyway, I was sitting there one day. It was lunch break. There was nobody too much in the court. It was pretty much empty in the courtroom. And I was sitting there at the bailiff's desk. And I'm looking at this Vegas book of places to tour and places to go. And I discovered there was a haunted tour that they were giving in Vegas. Well, I was looking at it and I kind of was chuckling to myself a little bit. I thought to myself, and I actually found myself saying this out loud. I just said to myself, yeah, I wonder if they go to Fox Ridge Park. And there was one woman in the court at the time, and she turned around to me, she said, Fox Ridge Park. She said, what do you know about Fox Ridge Park? As an officer of the law, I wasn't about to tell her that I saw something up there that was really bizarre. I just said, oh, nothing, I said, I've been there a couple of times. And I said, that's all I know about it. And then she turned to me and she said, when you were there, did you ever see an old man with two little dogs? I didn't let on, but almost knocked me out of my chair. Evidently, the park is supposed to be haunted by a man with two little dogs also. Now look, I'm not into paranormal. I know very little about the paranormal. I don't really care about the paranormal. But these two incidents did happen to me. And I really don't know what to think about them. If you have any suggestions, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about what happened to me, because I really got no idea what happened. So anyway, that's my history with the paranormal. And anyway, I thank you for joining me today and visiting my channel. If you enjoyed this today, I would ask you to like and subscribe. Even if you don't subscribe, liking this helps me more than you know, so please drop me a like. So anyway, we thank you so much for joining us today, and until next time, we'll see you then. All right, goodbye for now.